Hello everyone. Today I'm talking about the most important thing in the chapter 2, systematic. As you know, there are two systematic, basic whole system and basic sharp system. What is the difference between two systems? First of all, basic whole system. Basic whole system is a system in which the design clearances and interferences in the fit are achieved by combination of various sharp tolerance zones with the basic whole. What is the basic whole? The basic whole is the whole which fundamental deviation S in capital or lower limiting deviation of the whole equal to 0. This is the zero line. Tolerance zone of the basic whole system lie above the zero line. From the zero line and go up. If we want to choose a clearance fit in the basic whole system, we have to choose the tolerance zone of the shaft must lie below the zero line. If you want to have a tolerance zone of the shaft below the zero line, you have to choose a proper fundamental deviation of the shaft. Let's back to the fundamental deviation of the shaft. As you see, if you choose the letter A small, B small, C, and so on, so you have to create clearance fit in the basic whole system. If you choose the letter JS small, you have transition fit. This also transition fit because two tolerance zones are overlap. That means they have a common areas. And if you choose a tolerance zone above the tolerance zone of the shaft, above the tolerance zone of the hole, you have an interference fit. If you want to choose a fit in the basic whole system, you have to refer the table 4, standard fit in the basic whole system. You can see on this table, all fits have the fundamental deviation of the whole H in capital, H capital, H capital, H capital, because all fits belong to the basic whole system. And now we change the tolerance zone of the shaft, so we have the characteristic of the fit. So if you have to choose the fit with H capital over A, that means you have a clearance fit. H over B, H over C, etc. and H over G, H over H. All of fish belong to clearance field in the basic whole system. If you want to choose transition field, you have to choose the position of sharp tolerance zone. For example, H over JS, H over K, H over M, H over M. Remember that you have 4 transition fields corresponding to 4 fundamental derivation of the shaft: JS, K, M, N. And after N, you have a P. If you choose the field with H over P, that means you have a interference field. Because in this case, sharp tolerance zone above whole tolerance zone. After P, you have R. So you have H over R, H over S, H over T, H over U. They are interference field. So very easy to realize which one is clearance field, which one is transition field, and which one interference field. You only remember 4 letters. That means 4 fundamental deviation of the shaft JS, K, M, N to create transition field. And now I make an arrow from the left to the right like this. So what is the difference between H over A and H over B? All of them are clearance fields in the basic whole system. But what is the difference between two? It's easy to realize that H over A has more clearance than H over B. Why? Because the letter A is far away from the zero line than letter B. So H over A has more clearance than H over B. So if you go to this direction, the clearance of the field reduces gradually. With the same way in interference field, if you make an arrow like this, so you have interference field increase gradually. That means H over R has more interference than H over B, and so on. And how about the 4 field, 4 transition field? H over JS, H over K, H over M, H over N. What are difference among them? If you make an arrow like this, you can see the probabilities of interference increase and probability of clearance reduce if you were from the left to the right. That means which the first fix S over JS, the probability of clearance is bigger than probability of interference. Maybe in the first fix, probabilities of clearance is about 80%. What does it mean? For example, if in mass production, if you want to produce 10,000 hole and 10,000 straps, and now we make a sampling at random. That means about 80% of the matching part creates clearance phase. And only 20% is interference. If we move the second one, S over K, the probability of interference and clearance may be the same. And move the third one, S over M. In this case, probability of interference over 80%. Only is 20% for probability of clearance. And the last one, S over N. This fix nearly interference fix because 99.9% is interference fix. Let's move on the second system, basic shaft system. In the basic system, we keep the basic. We have to use the basic shaft. That means we have shaft tolerance zone below the zero line, because the fundamental deviation of the shaft is S in capital. That means upper limiting deviation of the shaft equal to 0. And if we want to choose a clearance fix in the basic shaft system, you have to choose tolerance zone of the hole above the 0 line. That means you have to choose the letter A, B, C, and so on. If you choose tolerance zone of the hole like this, you have a transition fix. Also transition fix, because two tolerance zones are overlapped. And if tolerance zone of the hole below the tolerance zone of the shaft, so you have a interference fix. If you want to choose the fix in basic shaft system, you have to refer to the table 5. standard fit in the basic shape system. In this table, you can see all of shape have a fundamental deviation S small, S small, S small, S small, S small, because all of the fish belong to the basic shape system. And now you have to change tolerance zone of the whole to have a characteristic of the fit, clearance fit, transition fit, or interference fit. A over S, B over S, C over S, and so on. All fish are clearance fit because the tolerance zone of the whole above tolerance zone of the shaft. I want to remind you that S over S is also a clearance fit, and is maybe belong to basic cone system or basic shaft system. And this is a clearance fit with the minimum clearance is always equal to 0. If you want to create a transition fit, you have to choose the fundamental deviation of the whole JS, K, M, N. There are 4 transition fit in the basic shaft system. And if you want to choose interference fit, you have to choose fundamental deviation of the whole from P, R, S, T, U, and so on. So if you go from the left to the right, the amount of clearance of the fit reduce gradually. So A over S has the most clearance, and S over S is the least clearance. The same way with interference. One of them are interference fits, but if you go from the left to the right, interference of the fit increase gradually. And now about 4 fit in transition fit. If you go to this direction, the probability of interference or clearance can change. After watching this video, I hope that you can realize which fit is belong to basic cone system, which fit belong to basic shaft system, which fit is clearance fit, which fit is transition phase, and interference phase. That's all for today. Thank you. See you next video.